So let's start with the two major injuries for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Minkah Fitzpatrick goes down with a hamstring injury early in the first quarter. Kenny Pickett goes down with a rib injury right at halftime. Tried to come back, couldn't come back. The Steelers play on Thursday, so you have to expect neither of those guys are going to be a go against the Tennessee Titans. I mean, we'll start with Minkah here. He leaves in the first quarter. DeMonte KZ, Keanu Neal step in for him. Miles Killebrew plays a couple of snaps here and there. I think everybody let up a big play at some point. How much trouble are the Pittsburgh Steelers in right now if they do not have Minkah Fitzpatrick long term? How much does this affect the defense? How dangerous can this get for a team that's going to rely on their defense for probably the rest of the season?
Yeah, I feel like they're in big trouble, quite honestly. This is a huge, huge loss. And you watch those three safeties play the rest of the game on Sunday, and they were not exactly inspiring confidence. Like you said, everyone gave up at least one big play, if not more. I don't know what DeMonte KZ was doing on that last touchdown to Travis Etienne. Yeah. He comes flying up out of nowhere to try and deflect a pass that was easily at least 3 feet over his head, that he never had a chance of getting that ball. No. So instead of making a tackle, he flies up while the ball is sailing over his head. But yeah, Keanu Neal struggled. Miles Killebrew obviously struggled. That's a guy who we talked about at the beginning of the year in the preseason just should not see snaps on defense ever. And now he's going to have to, probably. I mean, like, Minkah's a warrior. Minkah's a tough guy, but this is a quick turnaround. That injury, a non-contact injury, didn't look good. I don't feel very optimistic, and it feels like you're going to, I mean, even if you sign a guy or trade for a guy, I feel like this week, getting him ready for a Thursday night football game after he arrives in the building on Monday or whatever is not a recipe for success either, in my opinion. So I mean, at least one game is going to be pretty tough for you.
Yeah, I think the Tennessee, there's no chance that you could get a guy in the building that soon. I will say that they gotta. I think that if, depending on the severity of Minkah's injury, which, just watching, whenever there's a guy that goes to the medical tent and then immediately goes to the locker room, you're like, okay, this is serious. This is nothing that you could expect a short-term injury to be. If he's going on IR, if he is shut down for at least the next 4 games, you're obviously going to lose Tennessee. I don't think you're going to get somebody in time for that one, but you have to make a trade at the deadline. You have to. The deadline's tomorrow, 4:00. There's no way you could ignore it. All those talks about Justin Simmons, that doesn't really make too much sense, but maybe if you're giving up a 3rd-round pick for Justin Simmons, go get Justin Simmons. You know what I mean? You cannot mess around anymore. And to be just totally frank, I thought KZ had some decent plays when Minkah was in there, but I mean, he's not like a long-term, he's not a starter. You don't go get Justin Simmons and say, oh, well, we already have a guy in DeMonte KZ. They're not even close to the same playing field. You go get a guy. I think it immediately becomes your biggest need if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody wants to talk about corner. Everybody wants to talk about, the offensive line or center or whatever. It's safety. You are gonna miss a lot of opportunities. You're gonna struggle a lot without Minkah out there. You got to go get a safety. I think it's a must. Even if you can't get him in the building for Tennessee, right, you got to go do it. And I'm giving up a 3rd-round pick for Justin Simmons if that's the case, because as we've seen the Steelers offense, they're not going to win through the offense. They're going to win through the defense.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to invest, in keeping that side of the ball as as elite as it possibly can. And without Minkah in there, you're second. I mean, the safeties I felt like were, and Minkah specifically, were a lot of what was holding that pass defense together. Like,
yes,
like the corners had not been good. We've talked about them. They've been real up and down. Joey Porter's coming along a little bit, but it's still a lot to put on their plate as a unit that's struggling to keep up their level of play and then get even better, because that's what they'd have to do without Minkah in there to kind of make up for him not being there. But, Minkah controls so much from a communication standpoint. He's obviously an electric playmaker. Like, that's just a huge, huge loss. And then it's going to affect a lot of different things in the defense, not just, forcing DeMonte KZ to become your number 1 safety, which isn't ideal.
No, it's not ideal at all. And I agree. Like, if you finally possibly got something at corner, they didn't have a terrible game. Why would you, why would you just sit there and say, like, okay, sounds good, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because that's Pittsburgh Steelers way? Like, no, just go out and get somebody. You did it a couple of years ago with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I thought that, they're somewhat in the same boat here. They lose Sean Davis early in the season. They lost Ben Roethlisberger. They know that their defense is going to be the unit that carries this group. And they said, hey, whatever, man, we're going to get Minkah. We're going to get a star safety because we need a star safety. This year, I think it's somewhat of the same. And this team has a winning record. They have an offense that they trust, even if nobody else trusts. They have the pieces in place where this is somewhat of an excuse to go out and make a move for a safety. I think you have to. The other injury, Kenny Pickett goes down with a rib injury. I think, the play itself, plenty of controversy around that. We're going to get into the refs in a minute here, but Kenny goes down, doesn't come back. He tried to warm up on the sideline, couldn't do it. Mitch goes in. No idea what's going to happen with Kenny. According to Ian Rappaport, as of this morning, the Steelers are not optimistic that he'll be a go for Thursday. Mitch Trubisky's probably in line to start. A lot of people are going to bring up the Mason Rudolph conversation. Oh, who should start at quarterback? Should it be Mitch? Should it be Mason? I think the bottom line is, and maybe you feel differently, the Steelers' offense is going to stink either way. Like they're not, you could put anybody in there at quarterback. They're going to struggle. Things are not going to go well. It doesn't matter if it's Mitch. It doesn't matter if it's Mason. There's the Matt Canada factor, and the Matt Canada factor is no quarterback's going to succeed here. But that being said, how much trouble are they in if Kenny does not go, and if Kenny's got to miss some time? Like, we know who Kenny Pickett is. He's a tough dude. He's a gamer. He'll push through a lot of injuries. To not be able to go clearly means something is wrong. He's got to miss a couple of games. How bad could this get for the Steelers offense?
Yeah, it can get pretty bad. I mean, for as poor as they've been performing with their starting quarterback, a backup quarterback is not. You can't expect that to give them any better results.
No.
So, yeah, this is really bad. Like you said, Kenny is a tough dude. He'll play if there's even if he's at like 60 or 70%. But this can't be good. I'd expect. I think it might. Part of me thinks it might have been different if this was a Sunday game versus a Thursday game. But a Thursday game is way too quick of a turnaround, and then you kind of go from there. But yeah, the outlook is just not good for Thursday night. Like I don't know, Mitch may do a lot of things behind the scenes to help Kenny. I think he's got some experience that can help him. But like, you throw him on the field and the results are. It makes you wonder how this guy even won the job originally when he first
a year ago, right? Yeah,
right. And just we've seen pretty much this exact offense with Mitch at the helm before, and it's not pretty either. It's just your defense loses Minkah Fitzpatrick. You don't know what you're going to get from them, and then so you don't you can't expect the defense to carry the offense, and you certainly can't expect the offense to carry a defense that's undermanned now. So it's. We're gonna do on Friday, or I guess we'll do it on Wednesday. Our predictions and keys to victory, and I don't even know what the path is at this point. Like to be quite honest, not trying to.
No, you have to be honest.
But not trying to sink this team before they even have a chance to step on the field. But I just don't see what the formula to win this game against Tennessee is. I just don't.
I agree. Would you consider Mason? There are a lot of people that would consider Mason.
Yes, I've talked to these people.
Did you see Mark Caboli's tweet?
No,
during the game.
I did not.
He just tweeted out a GIF of Mason Rudolph. Mark is Mason Rudolph's biggest fan. He just tweeted out a GIF of Mason Rudolph, kind of leaving that one up for interpretation. You're not make this a quarterback competition in the one day of practice that they're going to have.
No, I mean, I guess you can have the conversation, but I also don't I guess it wouldn't really change anything. I mean, maybe I understand the argument a little bit. Like Mason probably has the bigger arm, and so if you're thinking
the bigger arm that he uses to check down a lot,
right? But also if you think okay, if we can tell him, look, you're not allowed to throw checkdowns. You can only throw deep balls to George. That's all we're gonna do, and then you're handing it off to Jalen and Najee. Maybe. But I still don't think you throw Mason Rudolph in there that you're going to have any better results than if you throw Mitch Trubisky in there. And if all you're looking for is something different, then I guess so. Maybe that makes sense. But I'm not really sure that it gets you anywhere further.
No, no. So Mason is a guy that I mean, look, I think Mason's a great dude. I enjoy talking to him. I think he's a good professional and I mean, he's living the dream as a QB3, let's be honest.
Mm.
But Mitch is a guy where if the Pittsburgh Steelers, you just got to look at the big picture. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is terrible. Their offensive line struggles at times. They have absolutely no running game. I mean, they rushed 12 times. They averaged 2.6 yards a carry against the Jaguars. 12 times. It was a one possession game up until the fourth quarter. You ran the ball 12 times. That's a Matt Canada thing. I get it, but that's just the picture. That's the reality that the Pittsburgh Steelers are dealing with right now, is that they have a very incompetent offense. You're not going to put a stable quarterback back there and say, all right, things are going to work out now. No, the best thing you could do without Kenny Pickett is to just put Mitch Trubisky out there and say, look it, man, if you don't see anybody, if you do not see single coverage anywhere, you run the football. You go get 6 yards and you slide every single time. Doesn't matter because you're not throwing an interception. Don't throw an interception. Run the football as much as you want to run the football. That's how we're going to try to win this game. Is it going to work? Probably not, but I just don't think there's a real argument for Mason Rudolph. I get where people are coming from, whereas in Mitch, Mitch was terrible. Like, stepping in there, he was as bad as it could get. His interception to Allen Robinson, if that was George Pickens, I'm like, okay, I get it. Desperation throw. You're going to throw it up to George. Understandable to a degree. Allen Robinson, 4 years ago, maybe you're making that call. Not today. That was just a bad throw. He had a couple of those. I get where fans are coming from. I get where some people are coming from. You got to let Mitch go out there and just say, hey, you're the more athletic option, which means you could get out of trouble a little bit more. Maybe we could utilize that. But if we're going to be honest, if the Pittsburgh Steelers throw the football more than 20 times against the Titans, I mean, Matt Canada shouldn't have a job today, but there should be no offensive coordinator come Friday morning, because that is just, you have two very competent running backs. You have an offensive line that is full of people who could run block. Like, that's what they do well, is run block, and a backup quarterback. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. It should be a running football game for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think I'm going to judge Matt Canada a whole lot off of what happens in this Titans game, because
I 100% am.
Well, he's set up to fail. Like, everyone is set up to fail this week. It seems like it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's Titans, going to be pretty. It's
the Titan, and I'm not trying to compare Will Levis to Mitch Trubisky. I'm really not, or the Arizona Cardinals. But I think the Arizona Cardinals are a better example than, or the Cleveland Browns are a better example than the Tennessee Titans. But there are teams out there who have backup quarterbacks who, I mean, the Browns got thrown into the worst situation of all time, where they have $230 million quarterback who just 30 seconds before football games decides he doesn't want to play anymore, and then they got to work with a practice squad guy, and they're still winning, or at least coming close to winning. The Arizona Cardinals are working with Josh Dobbs. Shout out Josh Dobbs. He's having a great year, but they're making games competitive. The Tennessee Titans just tossed their rookie quarterback out there, and he threw for 4 touchdowns. Like, good offensive coordinators could at least give their team an opportunity no matter who's out there. Bad offensive coordinators, you have to come up with excuses on why you shouldn't judge them for how bad their offense is. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I get that. But I feel like also Dobbs, and I mean, look at what the Bears are doing. Like,
the Bears.
Yeah, I feel like Dobbs and, I mean, Will Levis just might be more talented than
Will Levis
I thought
like
he was,
stud.
Which I would not have guessed.
No.
Who was the other team you brought up?
The Browns, PJ Walker.
Yeah, the Browns. Well, yeah, Browns seemed like pretty. I mean, I like PJ Walker, but yeah, I don't know. Those seem like exceptions to the rules more than, because I don't know. Is it all that common? Like, is it really that common for backup quarterbacks to even to really even give their teams real chances? I feel like that's not very common.
Including Tyson Baggett, who
if I give them a chance. Well, I guess he won a game.
He won a game. He won his first game.
But then he gets smoked the first time he goes to face a real team.
No, I 100% stand that or understand that. But the Tennessee Titans until yesterday were not a real team. They weren't. They were a bad team. Right? I don't know, but they were not good. They were. I mean, they were thinking about clearing house. Like, everybody's going, and then they win a game, and everybody's like, all right, maybe they got something in Will Levis. And I agree with that one. I'm just saying that, like you just can't you just can't give up. You can't look at it right now and just be like, well, they're going to lose that one and say, oh, well, you can't blame the coaches for that one. Otherwise, you have to scratch the next man up mentality and the fact that, and maybe not pay Mitch Trubisky $5 million.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems that go back way beyond, just having some injuries this year. But I don't need to. I can scratch whatever I want. Like, I'm not in the building. Like, I don't need to participate in next man up mentality. I don't need to be a believer in whatever depth they have. Like,
yeah.
I think we can all kind of acknowledge that they're fighting an uphill battle, and that no amount of belief in your depth is really going to change that. Like,
would you do it the other way around? Like, if Mitch comes out here and wins, plays really well, Steelers offense plays really well, you giving Matt Canada credit for that one?
Yeah. I mean, that's
So it's a one-sided coin.
Yeah, I think when you're not at full strength and when you're not at full strength when you don't have your starting quarterback, I think it's fair to say this offense is not reaching its full potential, and that's not necessarily the offensive coordinator's fault. But when he overcomes a bad situation, when he doesn't have the starting quarterback when he doesn't have a starting quarterback, I think it's fair to say, wow, you overcame a tough situation and scored all these points or got out of there with the win. That feels reasonable to me.
Yeah, that does. Now that you've broken that, does feel reasonable. I hear what you're saying there. I still think that I'm looking at this as Matt Canada's got an opportunity maybe to prove something. Maybe I should word it like that. Maybe Matt Canada has an opportunity to prove something. And if he does improve something, he's on the same playing field that he was coming into the game, which is, about as low as it gets. Maybe that's how I'll word it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to pretend like, oh, well, Matt Canada's been doing really well, so we don't need to, we can judge him off of lots of other things. Yeah, we can judge him off of lots of other things because he has had 7 games this year where he did have his starting quarterback in there. So we'll judge him off of those, maybe not this one.
Okay. All right. I agree. I could agree with that stance. Either way, rough situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for those hoping for Mason Rudolph, you're not going to get Mason Rudolph, unfortunately, unless something happens and he's out there, but we'll take that as it is.